Okay. Hey
Let's see the
everyone.
stream.
Oh, yeah, I just started it, Roger. We're live now. So, okay. Hey everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And it's Roger and myself today, and we will be presenting some new IDE features that were recently released. There are a couple really cool and powerful tools that are now in Bixby Studio, and we hope that you guys will give them a try, perhaps after this webinar. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide where we introduce ourselves. So Roger, would you like to introduce yourself? Oh, Roger, I can't hear you. Hang on.
It
Oh,
does help to
there we
not
go.
mute and things.
Yes.
You think 16 months in the pandemic, I wouldn't mute, but I still do. Hey everyone, Roger Kibbe. I am a senior developer evangelist for Samsung Bixby, and looking forward to hearing Jonathan's presentation today and talking to you all afterwards. So, Jonathan?
Yep, so my name's Jonathan Pan. I am also a developer evangelist or technical evangelist, whatever you like, for Samsung Bixby. And Roger really hyped up my presentation today, so we'll see just how exciting it ends up being. And I'm going to share my screen really quick with Roger so that way he will be able to see everything that I'm doing. And today, oh, sorry, it looks like, yeah. So today we have training V2, which is, let's see, hang on, PowerPoint. Okay, yeah. So we have training V2 and we have component gallery that have all been pretty large updates to the Bixby Studio IDE.
Hey, Jonathan, can I jump in before we get started?
Yeah, of course.
So as you guys are listening to this, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And then afterwards, I think Jonathan will take 20-ish minutes or so to go through this, something like that. We'll open up and answer any of those questions. And those questions can certainly be about anything you see today, or any questions at all that you have. It's really kind of an Ask Me Anything session after we do this. So go for it.
Great. And so yes, we're going to be going through the component gallery as well as training V2. Oh yeah, and Roger, are we giving away any phones and stuff today?
We are
Okay.
a little bit on the chat. Probably right after you finish, I'll put a link in there. And what you guys have to do is go, it's just a Google form, just need your name and an email. And then at the very end, right before we wrap up, we will be giving away two Samsung phones, two A50 phones.
Great. So I guess we'll just hop straight into it. There's no reason to really delay this any longer. You can see I was keyboard mashing in there for a bit. But basically, we have a simple capsule right now that gives you a random baby name. And it's going to take a few more seconds, I think.
In 2007, there were 8,982 baby boys named Cameron.
And so what this capsule is doing is that it's doing an API call to a server that I built, and it's grabbing, various names or whatever from various parameters and stuff like that. So let me make sure that I'm not blocking you guys right now. Okay. So I guess I should actually leave my face up for now. But yeah, you guys can see that it's just pulling a random name. We can see Cameron from 2007.
In 1985, there were 20,171 baby boys named Adam.
Adam from 1985. You can see 20,000 of them were named Adam. So that's all the capsule does right now, but we're going to want to add some user interface to it or some various visuals to it to make it look a little bit better. And we're also going to need to add some training so that way it can handle various queries that we throw back to the API. Like what if we wanted to know, a baby name from a specific year? What if we wanted to know a gender, or even a baby name that starts with a specific letter? And we will be adding all that stuff really quickly through the course of this session. And at any time that you work with a type of view or a type of layout, you will need to pop all this stuff here. So you have your render block and your result view file, and then you have your layout section content, yada, 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 right? But now this is where the magic happens, and this is the component gallery. And in case you didn't know, you can use autofill at a certain point in a file, like a Bixby file, and then it will show you a lot of your options for popping something in to the proper section, right? So in this case, we're in the content block. And by pressing Control Space, you can pop up the autofill. And today we will be using the insert from component gallery, which will then pop up this entire user interface for adding in some kind of UI or UX. And these are all, a lot of examples, a lot of samples for you to see just how it will look in your capsule. And this is very helpful for people that, don't want to go to the docs every single time to, remember what a component looks like. Here, it's just very simple in the sense that you can just preview what every single component looks like. And then what's also great about this, you can change various parameters. You can change the aspect ratio. So now it's 21:9, 16:9, etc. Right? There's also defaults that it's set to. You can change all the general parameters that you normally have to do through code, and you can do it all right here, which is very, very helpful. And on top of that, you can also look at the code itself in case you wanted to know, just what the actual code looks like before you pop it in. But in this case, we will mostly be focusing on just what it actually looks like in the preview. And the first thing we're actually going to add is an image carousel. So an image carousel, you can preview the component very easily, just like this. And you can see that there's 14 images in this. And we can see the code here is actually pretty simple. It's just an image carousel, and then we have images with this dot images. So let's go ahead and actually insert this into a capsule. And in order to do that, all I have to do is click on this insert button. And there it is. Just like that. That's one of the easiest view components that, in terms of actually putting it in your capsule. It's super easy to actually add. But now we need to make sure that this is the proper thing in the structure. So let's also familiarize ourselves with the structure really quick. This is the end result that gets passed to the user in terms of what it is, and we have a few things. We have images here, we have popularity, count, gender, year, and name, right? So most of these are pretty self-explanatory. But here we can see that now, just like that, we've added the image carousel, and if we run our capsule,
in 1969, there were 15,110 baby girls named Tracy.
we can now see this lovely image carousel full of pictures of cute babies for people to be using your capsule to see. And that is the power of the component gallery. It is super easy to, just add things like this. And we're going to add a few more components as well. We're actually going to add, let's see. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're actually going to add a, popularity bar, if that's what, we can call it. We're going to use the progress bar to do that. And we can see that for the code in the progress bar, that this thing takes, a float, right? So, number, decimal number, and just like that, it's right there. And in case you remember from earlier, from the name structure model, we have the popularity key. So all we have to do is change this to name.popularity. And perhaps we should also insert some text above it to indicate what this bar means. So we can actually do that with a single line. And single lines are very powerful in the Bixby views because you have a lot of flexibility and customization that you can do with it. Like you can add an icon here, you can change the text format and font, or not font, but the text formatting through the actual single line. And it's one of the very few components where you have this flexibility that you can put inline images as well as different fonts for it as well. So we can see here you can change the size of the spacer in between each of the components. You can change the text as well as the different previews for the text, various spacers right here. And yeah, you can just see there's a lot of options for the single line component. For us, we're just going to, I guess we can use the simplest one, this one right here. And I think title M is fine. And we're inserting this just like that, but I'm going to actually delete these because we actually don't need this spacer and text after it. And for the text, we're just going to put popularity. Very simple. And let's go ahead and run this, and it should show a little popularity bar.
In 1973, there were 8,679 baby boys named Todd.
Now, this text here is comically large, so let's actually fix that. Let's make this a detail M, and perhaps I overcompensated, and now it will be comically small, but we'll see.
In 1928, there were 14,873 baby girls named Barbara.
Okay, so yeah, you can see that we just added a simple popularity bar, just like that. And let's go ahead and also add another component. We can add a video component. And you can see that it's got some previews of different videos that are here, right? So we can, if we look at the code for the video component, it's pretty simple. We can see that right here, it just takes the video ID, which is the YouTube ID that you see at the end of a YouTube URL. But let's go ahead and try to click this copy instead of the insert button. And we can try to paste that. So it actually copied this entire thing. That's good to know. Instead, I think it's probably easier to just click insert to insert the video. And now, and actually let's go ahead and undo that again, and let's go ahead and insert a YouTube video, because this one is taking a raw URL, right? So the code is different for that, whereas for the YouTube one, you can see that the YouTube is right here, and then you have the YouTube ID as a key. So yeah, let's just go ahead and insert this YouTube video instead. And we can paste in a relevant YouTube video here, so that way, the user can perhaps stay more engaged with your capsule when they actually use it.
In 1980, there were 33,923 baby girls named Jessica.
Now we can see that there is a video here that you can just click on to play. Or I believe this is the most popular baby girl names from 1960 until I think 2018 or so is the video. Okay, so yeah, that is the component gallery, but I also wanted to point out a couple things in the component gallery that are actually missing. So a couple things that are missing from the component gallery. And we can see here that while we do have this pretty comprehensive list, right now actually the permission link isn't in there. That's one thing that if your capsule does end up using, you'll have to actually manually insert. But more commonly used components that are not in the component gallery are the spacer and the divider. So here, the spacer adds a certain amount of space, obviously, between the component above and the component below. And if we take a look at the component gallery, we can see that there is no spacer in here. And that makes sense, because it's literally just some blank space. So in the component gallery, it'd be kind of, silly to, I guess, include it, right? But knowing that it's not in the component gallery is valuable knowledge, because that way you can add it when you need it. And we're going to want to add a little bit of space between the image carousel as well as this popularity title here, or this popularity text here. And we can, under this one, is another component that's not in the component gallery, and that is the divider. So the divider is not in the component gallery either, and it's also a very useful UI component to have, because you want to add some type of division between different components, right? So that makes sense here.
In 1944, there were 39,196 baby girls named Barbara.
And that appears to be a very popular name. And now we can see that there's a little bit of extra space between the thumbnail, or between the image carousel that we had from earlier, as well as the popularity text right here. And we can also see that we added the divider between the progress bar and the video as well. So that way it gives a little bit more separation of the elements or of the view components to the end user. And it's a little less cluttered that way. But yes, the spacer and the divider are two very commonly used components that aren't in the component gallery. And there are also some more lesser used components like the permission link, and there's probably a couple more that aren't coming to the top of my head right now, that aren't in here, that you may want to use on occasion. So just keep that in mind, that although the component gallery very powerful, very useful for building complex components like this one, it is not all encompassing in the sense that it has every single attribute in it, or every single UI component in it. So yeah. Okay, so that covers the component gallery for now. And let's go ahead and move on to training v2, I guess 0.1, I think is what they're calling it. And in case you are familiar with kind of Bixby's how to create training examples for Bixby for some time, it has gone through some evolution since the beginning of Bixby Studio, and it used to be called Training v1. And Training v1, had a much different UI than this one does. Then it became Training v2, and now they decided to actually go back, grab some of the best features from Training v1, and bring them back into Training v2, as well as streamline some things in Training v2 to make it easier to use. So let's go ahead and add some training for this capsule. And let's go ahead and take a look at the code really quick, the JavaScript. And we can see here that this actually takes in a year, a gender, and a letter, and those are optional parameters, and we can see that it's adding them as queries at the end of your API call. I don't know why my brain was freezing there for an API call, but yeah. So it just adds it to the end of the URL, and then does the API call, and then it adds popularity or whatever. So that means that the capsule can actually handle, and the API can handle year, gender, and letter specifications. But right now we only have this single one training that's get name, and we're going to want to add some training that handles that. So now in Training v2, what you have to do is you have to click Add, and now you have this bar where you can type in the training example that you'd like to include, or at least the wording for it. And this is different from Training v2 because Training v2 would take you to a whole new screen. Right here, this is more like Training v1, where you still stay here in order to add your training example. So the first one that we want to add is a name that starts with A. So here we have that we are going to look for a name that starts with the letter A. And right here you can see that the tagging system for this new updated training is very similar, very reminiscent to that of Training v1. And Training v2, the original Training v2, had it on the bar, and it was very common to forget to click accept or save when you made this training and when you added these tags. But now with this kind of a reminiscence from Training v1, it's almost impossible to forget to click done, right? Because this thing just stays here until you click done. So now that we've clicked done, we've actually successfully tagged it as the concept or as the model, the letter A. And yeah, so next let's go ahead and specify the goal. The goal is get names. And let's go ahead and click save. So just like that, that was the entire flow for adding a new training example with training 2.1. And it still says it's saving. And I think, I guess I added it to the wrong target, but that's okay.
In 1917, there were 9,282 baby boys named Arthur.
And now we can see that any query that it does will pull a baby name that starts with the letter A.
In 2013, there were 15,255 baby girls named Ava.
And we can just keep going. Let's see what the next A name.
In 2007, there were 7,895 baby girls named Anna.
And yeah, so just like that, with the new training v2, we've added an additional training, but let's go ahead and add quite a few more. So the next one we're going to want to add, and I'm actually going to add these to E and US, because generally speaking, it's better to, I guess, keep it in one or the other, but we'll see how to deal with that later when we have training split into two different targets, in a sense. So let's go ahead and do a girl's name. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so we have a girl's name, and we can do gender as female. And this one's interesting because we actually have to dive into the aligned NL in order to, I guess, fix it, because right now we don't want the apostrophe S to be tagged here, right? So it's a little clunky, or even, I guess, difficult, if not impossible, to do it just from this GUI interface. So instead, we actually have to dive into the code, move this apostrophe S over here, and that way, now only the girl portion is tagged as the gender instead of the apostrophe S. And we will just set this goal as get names again. And we will click save, and just like that, it should be saved. So I know that right now it's not updating in terms of the UI saying that it's saved properly, but I believe it is saved properly.
In 1976, there were 15,179 baby girls named Stephanie.
Now, every time it should pull a girl's name.
In 1996, there were 8,000.
And if the training is done correctly, a boy's name should now work, and it should always pull a boy's name.
In 2016, there were 13,830 baby boys named Ethan. In 1984, there were 10,616 baby boys named Nathan.
Now, of course, we could have just been remarkably lucky in the sense that it pulled a girl's name or a boy's name every single time. But let's actually go ahead and take a look at the debugger just to make sure. We can see here that it is properly extrapolating the gender from the previous training example that we created. So yes, it is working properly. You guys are going to have to trust me on that. And next, let's go ahead and add a training example for the year. And right now, that's interesting. It's not letting me click on it. Go ahead and close that, reopen it. Okay. So now let's go ahead and start adding ones that specify by year. So a name from 2018. We're just going to tag this as the year concept and get names. And I also wanted to point out that you can actually see this, I think it's called plan graph or something. Yes. And you can see here that this visual kind of flow chart is now visible. And especially when your capsule gets much more complicated, as you have a lot more functionality and stuff, this thing can be very, very helpful. But while your capsule is simple, it's pretty straightforward, right? Because we're just doing a simple get right here. So anyway, let's go ahead and compile this. And let's go ahead and run this.
In 2018, there were 7,297 baby boys named Christopher.
And actually, I believe I forgot to directly state this, but you can click on this little simulator icon to pop it straight into the
In
simulator.
2018, there were 10,380 baby boys named Jackson.
We can do different years.
In 2017, there were 18,821 baby boys named Liam. In 1999, there were 9,380 baby boys named Eric.
Okay, so next though, so now we've added year, we've added a letter that the name can start with, and we've added a gender for the trainings. So let's go ahead and combine a couple of those. So a boy's name from 2018. And we just need to tag this with year. And if you recall from earlier, we don't want the apostrophe S to be tagged, so we're going to go into the aligned NL and move the apostrophe S after this proper tagging portion. And finally, we're just going to specify our goal and click Save. So now we have a training for a specific gender from a specific year.
In 2018, there were 8,400.
Go ahead and try that again.
In 2018, there were 7,297 baby boys named Christopher.
And let's go ahead and try a different year.
In 2018, there were 7,417 baby girls named Daria.
And there we go. So this training example is working just fine. And let's go ahead and get really crazy and add a boy's name from 2016 that starts with M. So now we're getting more and more specific by using, every single possible query that we can have for this capsule in a single utterance. And let's go ahead and tag each of these concepts. And finally, the last boys, and again, we want to move the apostrophe out. And finally, we have our goal. So now we can see that the actual chart thing is looking a little bit more complex, inserting the gender, inserting the letter, inserting the year, and the name. And let's go ahead, click Save, and run it.
In 2016, there were 14.
Sorry guys, I keep doing that.
In 2016, there were 15,262 baby boys named Mason.
Okay, and if we try, let's do a girl's name from 2018 or 17, that's fine, that starts with S.
In 2017, there were 7,709 baby girls named Scarlett.
And yeah, you can just get, more and more specific, or if you're interested to see like a popular name from whatever year, starts with whatever letter, now this capsule can handle it. And we did all of this through the new training 2.1 or so. So now we still have some of these in, oh, okay, looks like I've been adding them to the wrong target. And that's actually a good time to demo one of the training v2 features that managed to persist. And that is the select all. So select all will actually allow you to select all the training examples under this specific training source. And if you recall from earlier, I said, well, we should put this in the ENUS folder. Let's go ahead and just move it over to ENUS. Just like that. And now we can see that while we are looking at this training source, which is EN, the parent, I guess the language portion, we can see now that all the training examples are specifically in ENUS. So this is useful for, just making sure that the training examples are specific to a certain region's English. And I also wanted to show this thing as well. This used to be the original landing page for training v2. Excuse me. I'm going to drink a little bit of water real quick. But now we can see that it actually lands here on this training page. So it just saves you a little bit of time because you don't have to click through this screen like you used to back in training v2. And there are multiple other optimizations and improvements that have been done to this training v2.0 that have, really streamlined and improved the process for adding training examples to your capsule. So there you go, a pretty quick introduction as well as some live code in terms of adding various training examples to your capsule. And hopefully you guys got a good look at component gallery as well in terms of how easy it is. Again, it's just control space and then insert from component gallery. And then you just click on one of these to see which one you'd like to add. Right? So some of these are actually pretty good looking, and you can mess with them to see what you like. All right, and I think that about wraps it up for the presentation today. Let me bring back Roger. And there he is.
All right. Hey, everyone. So it is time for you guys to be able to enter the giveaway. So I'm going to be giving away one of these guys. It's a Galaxy A50 phone. Actually, I'm going to give away 2 of those. And what you need to do is, let me throw it in the chat here. You need to go to that link, and you need to just enter your name and your email. And then right before we wrap up, we'll ask Bixby to create a couple random numbers, pick them off the list of people who made entries, and then I'll get in contact with you, get your address, and we'll send you a free phone. So now's your chance. Click on that thing and go make an entry and get a chance to win a phone. Well, with that being said, let us open it up to questions. And I think we only got one question in the comments. So your demo was so compelling, Jonathan.
Oh, thanks, Roger.
Nobody could possibly take their eyes away from it. No, there's just a question about gallery. How many images can be inserted in the gallery? Image gallery. Is there a limit on the number of images? I am not aware of a limit.
I'm sure there is, right? But like, you'd have to push it to the limit to find out what the limit is. And I don't think most people are going to ever want that many images in a gallery. So it'd be interesting, though, to try. And I think it'd be fun to mess with. So yeah, if that's something you want to do, let us know how many images can fit in an image gallery.
Yeah, maybe someone can break it.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess it's some kind of like programmer number. Like it breaks at 256.
Yeah, it could, or
some base 2 kind of thing. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe like if there's a hard limit at like 50 or 100, right? We have no idea. Only one way to find out. Yeah.
So good bonus question. All right. So do you recommend to do training as you're coding or at the end? That is an excellent question that we might actually. Sometimes that's personal style and kind of best practices. So what do you think, Jonathan?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, we might disagree on this, so we'll have to see. I actually don't know Roger's style on this, but for me personally, what I like to do, and I guess, I have my IDE open, right? So what I usually like to do is I like to add just one training example at the very beginning that handles the main use case for my capsule. Right. So in this case, just get name. And then I start doing, making sure all the plumbing for get name works, and then everything works from start to finish, right? And then I usually add the additional functionality in the code. So to kind of answer that question, I start with one training example, and then after I flesh out most of the functionality from the backend, or from the JavaScript portion and the modeling, then I start adding the rest of the training examples. So yeah, that's my general approach to it. Sometimes I'll add an additional training example for, let's say, another core action that I have. Like, let's say I had a different action that was get multiple names or get 10 names or something like that. Then I would add a single training example for that, and then later add a lot more training examples to actually flesh it out. So yeah, that's my approach. Roger, what about you?
So slightly different. So I start out, I usually create some convoluted sentence that has every concept in there that I want to capture, because I like to try that and use that for testing. But I do think at a meta level, I would encourage you not to leave training to the end. This is something that I see with a lot of voice applications, not just on Bixby, but other platforms as well, is where people, they're leaving the training to the very, very end. And so they kind of slap it on at the very end. And it's really a shame because I've seen some really, really well-coded things where the training isn't well done. And then it's like, wow, you spent all this time, energy, and effort on the code side and the modeling side building this thing out, but users are going to interface with it by talking to it, and then that doesn't work very well. So I would encourage you to, even if you're not entering in the training, I mean, I start thinking, if I think about, I'm going to create a new application, one of the first things I think about is, okay, I start thinking about the phrases that I'm going to use and how that work, and that helps me then kind of actually model. So I don't know if I actually enter it in training. I usually don't enter it in training, but I would say that in my kind of design thinking, I definitely think about it ahead of time. So one of the plagues of the voice industry is well-coded applications that basically have a bad voice interface on top of them. And it's kind of like building something really beautiful code-wise and then putting a crappy UI on top of it. It's kind of the equivalent. So maybe a little philosophy in there, but
yeah. So also I wanted to give a quick shout out to some familiar faces. Hey Alex, hey Jatine, hey Junior as well, and Frank. Thank you guys for joining us as always. And Ben, I think I've seen you quite a few times in our webinars as well. It's great to see you guys again. We always love seeing you guys come back to these. So next question from Ben. Are there any plans to add preview to the view or layout editor? And Roger, did you want to take this or you want me to?
Oh, yeah. I'm not aware of any plans, but that's a cool idea, right? And I'm kind of thinking aloud. I'm kind of designing this in my brain. Is that it'd be kind of cool to have, like you're in Visual Studio and you're doing Markdown, right? And there's a tab that you can see the kind of instant preview. That's how I do my Markdown. Mm-hmm. That would be interesting to have some kind of dummied up thing that maybe showed something. I don't know. There might be some complexity with the code that you entered and actually get it rendering a result, and I'd have to do some interesting extrapolation because it actually doesn't obviously have the concepts defined in there in there. But yeah, it's an interesting idea. I like the idea, but no plans.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious how you'd like to see that work, whoever was Ben. All right. There's just a comment that embedding a YouTube videos works great in my capsule. That's awesome, Frank. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of capsules that use that. And I believe we're the only platform, and somebody can correct me because I can't keep up with what's going on in this industry across all these things, that lets you directly embed inside of your UI a YouTube or a Vimeo capsule of your own. And you also can do things like autoplay and loop and do that. And so I think you could do some really interesting voice-enabled video players. Love to see someone build something along those lines. All right, let's see, next question. Do you think it's possible to use, this looks like an interesting question. Do you think it's possible to use Bixby in sensitivity projects for quadriplegic or paraplegic people? Use visual sensors to capture movement and a Bixby say? Oh, interesting. So you're saying that you would have Bixby like a camera external and have your capsule respond to that. So here's what I'm just thinking aloud here, maybe Jonathan. Here would be the challenge with that is, if you want something to happen with Bixby, right, it has to be an action. And in order to invoke an action, right now, something needs to happen in the UI or something needs to be spoken. And I think what you're saying is there would be an external gesture that would cause something to happen, cause an action to be invoked. And I am not aware of a way to do that. It's a cool idea. I'd be curious if this is just off the top of your head, or if you're thinking about building something along these lines. I'm a big fan, I'll tell you, of voice and multimodal, and I think there's so much nonverbal communication that I think eventually our voice assistants are going to actually use the camera, if we can figure out the privacy implications around that, to kind of aid and abet kind of ways of communicating with tech.
Yeah.
Great question. I don't have a good answer. Jonathan, do you have any more thoughts on that?
I mean, I guess I don't have too much to add on to this, but I think like for people that often, lose motor function in various like legs and stuff, they are actually able to use voice effectively. So, I think they can still interact with Bixby pretty well. But like you said, there's Bixby's not really rigged up to any type of like computer vision stuff that would be able to analyze your movements and tell you about that. So yeah, that's just,
Yeah, really it's the event model issue, right? Right, so Bixby, like I think it is event driven. So you'd have to have some external sensor trigger an event. And I don't believe that's possible.
Right.
Good question. Let's see, what other questions do we have? What about alternate IDE support like Intellij? Jonathan?
Yeah, unfortunately not. I mean, I do often use like VS Code, I guess, to edit, some stuff in Bixby, but in terms of general usage, yeah, it's encouraged to just do it in Bixby Studio. So yeah, no external like direct IDE or any code editors supported with Bixby stuff right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the IDE is based upon the same open source framework as Visual Studio.
Yeah.
So a lot like the keystrokes and a lot of things work similarly. You can I do it for things like Markdown because it's not really well supported in Bixby Studio, but I stood in the studio. There was a couple of years ago a Visual Studio plugin that somebody did for Bixby, and I've lost track of what happened with that, whether they've updated it, whether it's abandoned, or whether there's something active there. Maybe I'll have to go check that out. But I get it. I mean, any developer falls in love with their IDE that they love, right? God, I've worked with people who wouldn't bring a VI out of my cold dead hands, which drives me crazy, right? That's too bare bones for me. Yeah. But anyway, whatever. I get it. But yeah, so no, just in the Bixby Studio right now. But good question, and I get why you're asking that.
Mm-hmm. So I guess next question or statement from Glenn. We need something that can understand other languages besides just English, and we needed to understand the Caribbean language as well. So I can say that Bixby does understand Korean very well as English. But as for other languages, Roger, do you have any insight on that?
Nope, nothing to report. As soon as we have something that we know about other languages, definitely let you guys know. But a Caribbean language, what I'm curious, maybe you can put in the chat what Caribbean language you speak or what you were looking to have support for. I'm always curious what people are looking for. Yeah. There's a really good comment here. Frank is saying, look at the Bixby routines or quick commands for what Junior is talking. I hadn't thought of that. That's why I love the community. Right. So those let you take external things that are happening on the phone and actually launch a Bixby capsule. So there might be something there. I don't know. I'm not Jonathan. I think you know Bixby routines and quick commands better than I. But anyway, cool place to look.
Yeah. Quick commands are very flexible, very powerful. There's a lot of different triggers for what can start a quick command, and therefore pretty much almost any Bixby functionality as well. Right, so if you can kind of come up or see if some of the triggers can actually fall into your use case, right, there can be something interesting there to look into.
Yeah, you know what I like those things for? Home automation, because I don't like anything. Any of that I always use, because I always want to say something different.
Right.
than what's kind of built in than the capsule developer did. So I create my own thing that then invokes and does something. So I can phrase it the way I want to phrase it. So yeah, way to customize. You can have some fun with your friends with quick commands.
Yeah.
Because it's the first thing that it looks for that before it goes to Bixby.
Yeah.
So you want to pull a prank on a friend, get a hold of their phone, and put some funny quick commands in there.
Yeah.
So when they try it, they can get some entertaining things going on.
There was one thing I wanted to add on to the languages thing for Bixby. Bixby actually does have a lot of different voices that are in different languages. So if your use case is like you wanted to, I don't know, take an English and then spit out, different language like Japanese or Spanish, right? Then the capsule, or then Bixby is actually very well suited for that. But yeah, it is a bit different from what you were saying, which is to understand, different languages. But Bixby can speak quite a few additional languages on top of English and Korean as well. So yeah, there's that to consider. Okay, yeah, I think Roger, we're caught up on questions for now, right? So if you guys have any more questions, obviously just throw them in there. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, hey, Jonathan, I'm going to ask you. You just released a video this week.
Yes.
Around some, a couple of videos in the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to give you advertising time.
Oh.
Tell people about your videos that you released, the tutorials.
Sure, yeah.
People to do.
Yeah, so go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Bixby Developers, and you can see, I believe I made a component gallery video that's, just walks you through component gallery, very similar to what we did here. And then I also did a video on some less commonly used view components that are actually very useful. In particular, one that I think is very interesting and very useful is the permissions UI component, because if your capsule does take in permissions and then someone denies the permission, you may want to remind them that, hey, they can enable this permission, and what better way to do it than with some kind of a UI feature that's like presented to the user, right? So yeah, go check those out at our YouTube channel, and there will be many more videos to come. As always, we just keep that cadence up, and keep giving you guys inspiration for stuff to build for Bixby. So yeah.
All right, let's see. Are there any more questions and things? No. If there aren't, then please add to M12.
I think that's a model, right? A model.
Oh, it's an India. I had never heard of that. There's so many Samsung phone models. I have not heard of that. Yeah, I don't. It's for the Indian market, the M12. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know much about that phone, but I will thank you for the feedback. I can definitely collect this kind of information and feed it back to people there. All right, guys. Are we ready to do the giveaway?
I'm ready if you are, Roger.
Are ready? Drum roll and things like that. All right, I see there are, let's see, I'm in the spreadsheet right now. There are 51 entries.
Okay.
So, all right. Whoops. All right. I need a number between 1 and 51.
No, can't hear it, but
I have the volume. I got the volume turned down.
That's okay. Who won?
Okay, double checking. All right, just looks like your number is 30. All right, number 30 is boom, 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 boom. Sam Wee. Sam W-I. You have won a phone. So what I'm going to do, Sam, is congratulations. I will send you an email. And I need your address and a phone number, and then we'll ship that phone off to you. All right, let's get back to it and things like that. I wonder why Bixby's volume is not. I think I had volume turned down and everything on this phone. Hang on. All right. I need a number between 1 and 51. All right. I guess I got the volume down, but it is saying the number is 7.
Number 7, lucky number.
Number 7 is Ramesh, and your last name is DV. So I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Ramesh. If that is awesome, Ramesh. Don't know if you're still out there on there, but congratulations. Oh yeah, there you are, Ramesh. All
hey,
right.
congratulations, Ramesh. You won a new phone.
We'll send you an email, same thing, address and phone number, and we'll send you a free phone. So congratulations, guys. All right, so kind of wrapping up, we do these monthly. I was just looking at the calendar next month, and I realized I'm going to be on vacation. And I know, can I let them know it's going to be your big news?
Oh, sure. I've announced it before. I think on a previous webinar too. Yeah.
Jonathan's going to have a baby.
Yeah.
So he is going to be out sometime in July. So we need to figure out when in July.
Yeah.
We're going to do office hours.
I will be here for the office hours in July, because my leave starts after the 19th, right? So the second Friday should definitely land before that. So yeah, I'll be here for the next one in July. I'll be here.
Oh, you will be? Okay.
Yes,
well, I won't.
Yes.
So okay. I will. Okay, but Jonathan, you gotta play it by ear, dude. As I said, the baby's gonna come out.
Oh, that's true. That's true. If the baby comes
over, danger. We'll figure it out. We'll talk about it offline and figure out when the next office hours are. But go ahead and sign up. We'll put that out on Eventbrite, and then you get some reminders and things. And I don't know what the topic will be. If you guys have some ideas, I always ask this, and I never hear from you guys. So I would love somebody. Like DM me on Twitter at Roger Kibbe and say, I want office hours about X, Y, or Z. That would be awesome, because otherwise we sit here and think about it. And that's a funny. He doesn't want pride. That's a funny. Yes, Jonathan's wife is having a baby. Yes,
she looks very pregnant. She's taken on the brunt of the work. Yeah, thanks guys for
exactly.
all the congrats and stuff. Yeah.
So in a couple months, we're gonna have a third person on these things. The youngest Bixby developer evangelist, John Jr.
Yeah,
is coming.
Yeah, he's gonna be live coding for you guys. We'll see if he types out "I just blah blah" or something.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Might be a better coder than I am.
Hey.
All right. With that, guys, why don't we wrap it up? Thank you so much. Alec, are you guys going to pick a name from the capsule? Are you going to use your capsule for a name?
So that was my original inspiration for building the capsule, but my wife has a name, and she loves this name, so we have already chosen a name. Yes.
I was going to say, letting Bixby choose your baby's name. That's how to get a divorce, dude.
Hey, now the capsule I built only gives popular names, but I guess she doesn't really like. Yeah. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on that, all right. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, Jonathan. Really an amazing presentation today. And talk to you. We'll figure it out when we're going to do it next month. It may just be one of us solo. So, All right. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Have a good one.
Yep. See you guys.